today by Javier Sepulveda, aka Pulse of Nature. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. It's an honor to be here.
I am honored for you to be here.
Thanks so much.
How was NAMM?
NAMM show was very exciting this year. A lot of cool players, a lot of great products to see, new innovations in technology, music, products like pedals, amplifiers, and all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a place like that's definitely almost like a playground for you.
Oh my god, you can imagine.
Did you acquire this guitar recently?
No, this guitar was a gift from Alexander Klaas, which is a luthier from Germany.
Oh wow!
So it was a project we worked together. He took like about a year to make, and yeah, it turned out to be pretty cool. With some
there we go.
LED lights, and there's a like Floyd bridge here, and I can mute some sections of the guitar. But it's basically a double diapason guitar, but it's one neck, as you can see.
AKA the charcuterie board.
Yeah, charcuterie board. You can always cut cheese there, ham, and enjoy yourself.
That's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the echo pedal, the new echo pedal with the tape delay over?
Tape delay?
Yeah.
Well, I saw it, but I didn't try it, unfortunately.
I had been seeing people talk all about that recently.
Yeah. I love delays, and tape delays especially. Echo play style delays, tape delays are great.
Yeah, quite a work of engineering to have recreated that.
Yeah, I've been trying KMA audio from Germany 2 pedals, so it's really good. It's like the first digital version of their analog machines. Analog pedals is really great. So check it out.
Nice. So, Pulse of Nature. Mm-hmm. This is your main project. You're the composer / director.
Yes.
You wrote this album back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So Pulse of Nature started as an idea to create a multicultural platform to unite musicians from Chile to other musicians in the world. So it will become basically on a statement of a collaborative project to do a conceptual journey through north to the south of Chile, inviting different musicians from different bands from different countries and the National Orchestra of Chile and members of the National Orchestra of Chile.
That is super cool, and I assume you're from Chile.
Yeah.
Originally born there?
Yeah, originally born from Chile. Yeah.
How long have you been hanging out in the States for?
Like about 8 years, in and out.
8 years, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So about Pulse of Nature, that's there's a lot to say about that, because that project started like that, and for being able to pull it out, I did a Kickstarter project, right? Because the magnitude of the project was so big that I had to ask for help. It's like you can pull it out by yourself. It's like it's not like Frank Zappa. Things like how you hire it. It's like the entire orchestra.
Right, it's an impressive work. I've listened to it a couple of times now, and we were just listening to it during the little loading screen that we had. The first song, Whispers of Bilu.
Awesome.
And it's quite ambitious as far as a project goes.
Yes.
Was it your first release as a solo artist, or have you worked on some other projects before?
Well, I was working with other musicians at the time, doing session recordings for different artists, working with my good friend Jaime Rosas, which is a keyboard player that joined all the the style of composers from 1970s, like prog style, and he invited me over to play with him. And I found myself learning, many lines of keyboards and, prog and metric changes, rhythm changes, and that opened my mind towards that direction of things. But the answer to that is it's my first release, and
yeah, it's a beautiful piece. Everybody that I've shown it to remarks that it reminds them of kind of like a cinematic sort of
Yeah,
soundtrack
yeah,
sometimes.
that's what we're exactly aiming for.
Have you shopped it around with any sort of like producers or anything like that, potentially to put it into like a
Well,
movie? Like I could see it definitely
yeah, yeah, yeah.
on
Well, I had some
soundtrack.
thoughts about like recreating. It's actually like playing again. Like the orchestral parts with more simplistic layout maybe, and kind of there's many thoughts about like trying to invite in the future, which is kind of a dream of mine. I like to have big dreams, like play it with the orchestra of Colorado. That would be amazing because all the arrangements are already there. So if anyone from the orchestra of Colorado is seeing this interview, please reach out to the director.
There you go.
And yeah, then some sections of that because the work I was doing at the time with different. My brother is a 3D designer, so he invited me over to do this all this work with the 3D design and campaigns and corporate work. So some of the parts of the Pulse of Nature composition are actually on a few Greenpeace and North Face videos. That was cool. Yeah, it was a little feature there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's an awesome thing to be seeing your music out there in the wild like that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's already there, why not to use it? In something else. I don't see no wrong in there.
Right, right. So, personally, as a musician, how did you get started in music? Did you learn guitar as your first instrument?
No, I learned piano. I used to have like classical piano lessons
That makes a lot of sense.
at the
honestly.
conservatory, and the piano. I always will respect piano, and how it lays out. The layout of the piano is amazing to me because you can actually like make all the notes crash and have a feel of how these colors will come onto life. But for me, as a kid, learning the piano, I fell in love with music like very early age. But for me, at some point, I really wanted to go out, play more with friends, and having to practice all the time sometimes will be like a little bit hard on me. And then I found out myself having more fun with the guitar because it will be an instrument that I could take with me anywhere.
Sure.
And I will go to the hills nearby my house at the time. Like play some guitar, write some stuff, and enjoy myself.
Yeah, and music to a lot of people is all about the community. It's all
Exactly.
about
Yeah.
incorporating the people around you into the conversation of what it is that's coming out of you. So, you know, what is it that got you into wanting to perform in front of others? Was it always kind of something that was there from the very beginning, or
The truth is, like, for me, music was always about being able to connect with people, to share like good times, relax, and I always have like these like ideas of like wanting to perform to share that, but not just to become a performer. Actually, in my career, I'll be in and out of things, like trying to, okay, let's do this video, and then like pull back a little bit and say like, well, I want my piece a little bit here and there. So there's a little bit of both, It's like wanting to show something and to be able to connect with that side of things of live music, because it's such an energy that happens when you play live that is very rewarding. But at the same time, I respect a lot the introspective side of music. It's like.
of course, I mean, I think that there's value in doing things intentionally in your own bedroom by yourself completely, and then also bringing that energy out in front of people kind of takes it into a completely different
Yeah,
space.
but then it's like you're super right about that. But then it's like as musicians, like our life is like it goes like woo, life is amazing, and then it's like oh my god, why I keep doing this if it's so hard, and then it's inevitable to question yourself. It's like why I keep doing this if sometimes I fail or and then I got to that question to myself and I did it. I was like, Javi, why are you doing this if it's hard sometimes? And I came up with the idea that not everybody plays for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, it was like, why you play? Why you suffer so much with technicalities and with all this world of, like all this technical side of music that sometimes like you play one note wrong and then that one note that is wrong will sound in your ear like for a freaking week, you know. And that for me was like, well, I play because I open a space of, you know, like a peacefulness. To I use that space to as a therapy for myself, to be able to heal myself or to explore emotions, you know, or all these things that are part of me as a person, you know.
Yeah.
And then came up to me the idea is like, why not to actually share this with other people, and for doing that doesn't need to be just strictly perfect like it will be on a layer of a live show, you know what I mean. You can do that with anybody, you know, like beginner players and expert players. If you open, like, it's like this conversation, right? It's like if we open it up with an open heart, doesn't need to be perfect, and still it's great.
Absolutely, it's so much about exploration. I think.
Yeah, and that for me was a quite a relief, you know. It was like, well, I can open my heart more towards that and being able to share those important things of my own moment.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, being a musician is a lot about asking yourself questions about what's right. Sometimes when you're playing, what's wrong in your playing, what is it that you like to hear, and that kind of introspection always naturally leads itself to other sorts of questions.
Totally.
Like,
Yes.
am I doing the right thing in general? And I think that having that sort of conversation with yourself is very valuable, and I think it's why a lot of musicians have, sort of this natural sort of spiritual demeanor around how it is that they approach things. It's because they're always kind of in this process of like self-reflection and refinement.
Yeah.
So
totally.
that's just a very natural question, I would say.
Yeah.
So I'm sure plenty of people would commiserate with you on that, and moreover, being able to express that through some of this, performance, community, jamming sort of experience is part of what makes it that much more rewarding to know that everybody's kind of going through that. Simply.
Yeah, exactly.
But technicality, I think that that's something that not everybody really pursues to the degree that, as evidenced by the fact that there's currently 32 strings on my couch right now. Not everybody really goes that hard.
I'm gonna tune and I'll be right in 2 hours, guys.
we're almost done with the first set of strings. It's amazing to see. Honestly, it's almost kind of like taking the guitar into like the piano realm.
Yeah, like extend more like yeah, totally extend more like the intervals and the possibilities, totally.
Right. And it's interesting that you mentioned earlier, having so much respect for the piano as your first instrument, and knowing that it has this very distinct, obvious quality about how all the notes are arranged. And guitars can kind of be a little bit esoteric sometimes with the notion of like, well, it's like a bunch of pianos arranged in like fourths and thirds on top of each other. How is it that you got to feeling comfortable with understanding some of the theory?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in the piano world, you will see all the notes laid out in one way, and then a piano player will be able to tell you right away, it's like, this is exactly this note right here. But the lay on guitar, for me, goes a lot more in the side of intervals. So because of that, I figured out a way to like read more the guitar and the diagrams. I did a book on the subject, on extended, it's called Diagrams for Extended Range Guitar. You can get it on my website, pulseofnatureband.com.
I have to check that out.
I'll give you a free copy, no worries. and for that, it's like I explore a little bit like how these intervals generate, like these diagrams actually. For harmonizing major, minor scales, doing scales and everything. Like major scale itself generate a huge pattern if you see it, and then you just like pick up a starting point in different sections, and that is generating your modes.
Right.
But it's just music is very cyclical. It's a cycle that never ends. It's like a clock, and then you say I'm going to work at 3. Okay, 3 will be your starting point, right? And with music it happens a little bit the same. So yeah, so I took it that more in that direction of things, like not get stressed with the hardcore theory of things, which is also necessary, You need to, learn the theory for being able to blend and break the rules. So I wouldn't say that it's just about intervals. It's so many things about, music in general. Um, but that in this territory of guitar playing help a lot because I will be, analyzing what diagrams are generated through whatever topic I will pick, pretty much. Yeah.
To me, this is an extremely exciting subject. Personally, as a guitarist, I just love hearing people talk about it because I've obviously got my own theories about it. But obviously, not everybody in the audience is necessarily a hardcore guitarist that wants to hear about theory.
Everybody plays for the same reasons.
So let's ask some fun questions. You've been on tours before.
Oh yeah.
You've played with members of Dream Theater.
Yeah.
Who I played Guitar Hero as a kid. I definitely got my introduction to the prog world partially through them, and I am a huge fan of some of their music. What was it like going and playing out there with such esteemed players?
Well, I think it was like a great opportunity to support, these shows, opening, the shows for these big players. With Felix Martin at the moment, we start doing a big tour that took like many days to complete, and starting in Montreal. And well, I will say that the main thing with all this, I'm playing, being able to see how these players do what they do and listen to them talk is a learning experience, right? It's number one, I will say, is like was extremely rewarding to learn how they do the things they do. There's some crazy stories, like about how they will like. I remember like how they will like set up their stuff and how professional they are for doing the configuration of a show, and there's so many people behind than just the players. I had the opportunity to do some tours with many other players, members of King Crimson, Adrian Belew, Tony Levine, Pat Mastelotto. I opened some shows for Asia. I did a Tony McAlpine show too on tour touring with Felix Martin, recording with Felix Martin, also doing not just guitar but bass lines too.
Yeah.
That opened my brain. But generally, like doing all these tours and shows for me is like rewarding, in a way that you can always grab the best of what is going on and not get distracted with the actual fact that it's like because it's funny you mentioned it's like at some point like one like quick story. We were like
I love stories.
we were at the green room. I think it was Montreal or Quebec. No, it was Montreal because it was the first show of the Sons of Apollo tour. So Sons of Apollo was like Mike Portnoy, Billy Sheehan, Derek Sherinian, and Bumblefoot. He played with Guns N' Roses for about 10 years, taking the spot of Slash. Not many people know that, but that's true. So like great, amazing players. So we were at the green room, and then suddenly a little dog enters to the room, and we were like, oh, look at the little, like your power here, but smaller. And then it's like he just sniffs us a little bit and goes like, oh, we pet him a little bit, and then he leaves the room. And then 2 minutes later, in that first show, Mike Portnoy shows up and goes like, hey guys, have you seen my dog? And we were like, yeah, went in that direction. And then he leaves and he's like, wait, that was Mike Portnoy, right? And the same that you were saying is like, for us, like to see our actual, music heroes being around in the same tour and being able to do, many dates and shows and learn from them, it's just an embodiable experience of learning. That's the way I always seen it, more than just for the light or the fame or whatever it is, like related to being working, by the side of these great players. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's truly an incredible experience to be able to have.
Yeah.
And seeing, Mike Portnoy's dog, that's just a memory you'll never be able to get out of your head.
Yeah.
You mentioned Felix Martin a little while ago.
Oh yes.
And you guys have actually played here in Colorado together at a very small and well-known venue that I feel like must have been very interesting to see such an incredible proggy show at.
Very technical. Yeah.
Lost Lake.
Felix is nuts. He's very, very talented on guitar.
You were playing bass on that show, right?
Yes, I was playing bass and a little bit of guitar too.
Nice.
I think it was a 14-string guitar, like this one. This is a 14-string guitar too.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, so
that's
16
and 14.
and 14.
Nice. How was that show?
That show was awesome.
Were you guys headlining that one?
Yeah, we were headlining at the moment. We did a tour. Well, we also did a tour with Sarah Longfield. Great, prog metal guitarist, female guitarist. She's awesome. And yeah, that was super fun. Because at the beginning of those, it's like I was like trying to wrap my head around the fact that the lines on the music of Felix are insane to learn. So the very first ones were very exciting. Almost like a rum test for the brain. It was like, okay, I think I got this. Yeah, very technical, very fast. A lot of metric changes and yeah, but it was a blast. Was great. It's always great times to tour with Felix. Yeah.
Nice. Do you guys have any plans to meet back up any point soon?
Well, we were hanging out at NAMM show. Well, we have talked a little bit about like maybe doing some tour to Japan and go play there. We ended up doing metal prog. Was a metal prog rearrangements of classicals from Venezuela, classical folkloric music from Venezuela arranged.
Like Antonio Laudo or something like that.
Yeah, like all composers from his land that he sent me over was like, okay, it's like we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do this in metal layout.
Ooh.
So that's what we did, and it's called Caracas. You can check it out on his website, on Felix Martin website. I think it's felixmartin.net.
I don't think we ever talked about this, but I'm from Caracas.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
So I might really
the world's a
check
small
that
place,
out.
my friend.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, as a musician, when you're composing,
Yeah.
is there a particular process as to how it is that you approach some of the challenges?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, for me, sometimes like music composition is related to create like a storyboard, and first, imagine like what it will be about, and considering like the story, then making a selection of like instruments and trying to narrow it down, because music composition sometimes for people that have many ideas and is very shiny out it like I am, it's very difficult to focus and to try to keep improving something, and to keep it simple for me like helps, but also helps to find inspiration in nature or in a story. I might have actually like I have a story for my next album that I was thinking about. I can tell you more about it if you want to know.
Of course, that's why we're here.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about like how music can become an actual power in the world, and that's a good question. I mean, for me at least, it was like how I can contribute in a way, that this can be acknowledged in the future.
Yeah.
And I came up with this. It's like actually in the future, it's like many artists that do music and art are not acknowledged in their lifetime. Not many people is lucky enough to get that exposition to like success.
Right.
But also success is relative. So I thought about the fact is like why you like to do that might help something. I mean, our world, not just in this lifetime, but in the future.
Right.
So I have this idea. Will sound, maybe I can tell you about it. It's like imagine that there's a camera that is flying and is entering through an apartment. Okay, and then you see all these like piece of paper shrinked all over the place, and you can hear no,
Mm-hmm.
and then the camera goes and there is this like perfect drawings of whatever you could imagine, like trees, like a perfect sunset. But this character, the camera goes and the camera like points this character, and this is in the future, right? So imagine that character is like making actual perfect printing drawings, but is frustrated by the fact that is not that what that person wants.
Hmm.
So this character is trying to create art, but he's in the future, in a point of time where we're blending, with machines. It's also, happening right now, kind of thing.
Sure.
So imagine like 500s in the future, or maybe even way less. What will happen to our emotions and to our humanity? So in the story, uh, this character will find a VR station, but imagine like
VR station.
like an ancient VR station. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Because now virtual reality is something that is modern. Is happening right now. People is using it for education,
Sure.
for creating content, videos, you name it, video games too, and everything. So
Hmm.
imagine that there is a VR station that contains the basic um, expressions of human emotion, like hate, love, compassion, like
Yeah.
all these human basic emotions, and this character will connect to those and will relearn something that was like abandoned in our inherent, humanity because of technology.
Right.
So in the story of this, it's like the character reconnects to those basic emotions that I gotta figure out, guys. Okay, so will be great in a way because it's like when this character reconnects to that, start painting with more colors. It's not anymore just like printing images by hand,
Hmm.
you know. So it starts splashing colors and drops on his or her knees. I don't know yet, and breathing hard, and then the camera goes out, zooming out, and then there is a piece of art, and then the character acknowledges that, breathing hard, and says, "Yes, this is it."
Wow.
And then that camera goes out, and that image is the actual cover of the album.
Gotcha.
And
Wow.
yeah.
These are some very high concept.
Yeah,
sort
I
of
just,
I love it.
yeah, I just
Personally,
thought
I
about
like
it,
when
and
people are telling like a real story
and
with this
then
kind of stuff.
and then I thought about the fact that, well, why not to like push it a little bit by doing one last act of of love for of me delivering something that I might think is meaningful, the power of one, right? So was like, well, maybe I can put this content on a time capsule, design it, talk to people that can help me about how to put it together with instructions, and actually bury it.
Hmm.
And will be like
That would be pretty cool.
one seed that nobody will know where it is.
And it's kind of like
That might
almost
help
this-
in the future for the same reason was created.
Right. Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
given that it's sort of a commentary on technology and the
Mhm.
progress of human acceptance of like, the machine and their own sort of reconciling with their natural sort of state, sort of yearning for the idyllic in some sense. That's all very poignant sort of commentary right now in general. I
Yeah.
hope you don't just bury it. I
I
hope you
thought it was
also
a
release
I
it.
thought it was a good idea in a way because it's like will be me just like burying something a time capsule with a content, but what if you inspire others like to do their own, and could be even a joke, doesn't need to be necessarily something so deep, but something
Sometimes
sometimes simple ideas like that might go
sometimes
long
the
ways,
most
you know.
insightful stuff are comedic.
Mhm.
So I would say go for it. That sounds like very well thought out. Have you started recording or
Yeah,
sort of writing?
yeah. I already started like some sessions for those new recordings for Pulse of Nature. I'm recording with Billy Sheehan,
Nice.
which is a bass player of Steve Vai and Mr. Big and other great bands.
Yeah.
And I'm composing a lot. I got my little studio set up, so I'm happy in the mountains in Evergreen.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, hello
That's
to all
nice.
my friends in Evergreen. I love you guys.
I hope
And everywhere.
they're tuned in. But
Mhm.
that actually is a nice little segue into another question that I had,
Mhm.
which is being part of the music scene in Chile for a while, and also being a part of the music scene in Colorado.
Mhm.
What sort of differences and favorite sort of things do you feel about what you liked about South America, what you liked about being here? How do you feel like you work best?
Yeah,
who do you like to
that's a
hang out
good
with?
question. It's like Chile is a very isolated country geographically. So in one side you have Pacific Ocean, in the north you have the driest desert in the world, Atacama, and in the south you have uh, Antarctica, and by the other side you have Andes, by the side of the frontier with Argentina. So it's interesting what happens in the music phenomenon because like we will gain access, especially before internet, but because now that is changing, right? I mean that
Right.
changed everything. But we'll get like our own versions of, we'll recreate our own versions of what we were listening to. So like the music here in the United States is backed up by actually like cultural root history, right? Is engraved in the history of this country. But for us, will be like to listen to something and do your own version of it, not necessarily being able or having to study all the root sides of music, because sometimes you'll listen to music and you won't go necessarily like to the historical context of it. You just will listen to it. So in Chile, what I think it is interesting because people will create like their own versions of what they're listening to.
Hmm.
So that will take music like to other sides of things. Sometimes for great reasons, for sometimes not for the best, And in comparison to that, when I arrive here, I really love the fact that I will see like extremely young players like playing like adults, or like having the vocabulary of an adult musician. And then I used to go to this, festival, Rocky Rock Festival in Lyons, and it struck me to see like these master players like Bella Fleck and all these like, Sam Bush talking to everybody, and they will like pass the torch to other generations.
Mm-hmm.
So culturally, the music in the United States, through the facts of like historical facts, I mean through historical facts and through like who, like how people react to culture in an open way, just to say how something works, or just to tell a kid like, here it is, you play it now. I feel like that's a great thing you guys do here because helps so much. In Chile, some people are that way, but not everybody, and many people will learn something and will be a little bit more hermetic. It's like, oh, it took me so long to figure this out. So culturally, is funny how there is like those differences, but I'm glad I got to see it and learn from it, and I think that's my point of view on that subject.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Being
Mhm.
that I growing up here, learning music here for the most part,
Mhm.
didn't get that experience in its intensity, but I did, occasionally run into people who were a little bit more difficult to work with and
Mhm.
felt kind of a little bit more entitled
Mhm.
to their knowledge and
Mhm.
almost like a little protective about it,
Mhm.
which is kind of a funny thing. And I think it ends up sort of shooting themselves in the foot, sort of a thing, because in this day and age, the amount of communication and sort of like YouTube videos that are out there in general
Mhm.
that anybody can learn from if they really are trying opens up a lot of doors to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Formal music education is still great, but
Mhm.
there's a lot you can do now
Yeah.
with just a lot of determination and a
Yeah.
connection to the internet.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I understand too sometimes, for players that they work a lot on their craft and they will feel like threatened by others, or they took so much time to get where they are that sometimes for others will be like, but it's just a gig, it's just a jump, or it's
Mhm.
just this and that. So I really understand that side in a way to be kind of that. Um, but also, it's like being a climber that knows every single crack of one specific mountain, and then it's like, somebody take him to another territory with different geographic characteristics, and it's like
Mhm.
different set of skills and tools,
Right?
and
Yeah.
that makes everything like more. That person will go like, wow, what should I do here? You know,
Scooter seems to really like
I
you.
I love you, man.
We've
He's
got
such a
the
good
official
boy.
mascot for
Yeah,
Pizza
so
Hour
so a good
hanging
thing
out.
to solve that is like, I know I told this to myself, is like, well, I know my way, but I would love to learn your way. You know, I'm interested. And
Yeah.
in that way, you don't necessarily have to say, I'm the best for this, or I'm better than you, or whatever, you know.
For sure.
It's like, and that way you can never lose because you all have the respect to figure out how the other learned that or how to do it, you know. And I feel that's a good approach.
Yeah, I think fundamentally better and worse are very destructive words when it comes to talking about music. And it's refreshing because, the more technical somebody gets, occasionally, the more destructive they become with some of their words and how they feel like I'm better than everyone. So
Yeah,
you don't really feel like you've taken any of that on, and I commend you for still staying humble and having such a nice attitude about
thank
music
you.
in general.
I mean, it's like how not to be humble in the learning of a craft that will never end. You know, it's like it's infinite.
Right. There's always some monster.
The more you know,
out there.
the less you think you know, and it's like wow, strings and music composition and instruments and arrangements and so many things.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, it's like I feel like the more I know, it's like the less I know. It's like
that makes sense. And speaking of arrangements, I know that mostly your music is for full orchestra, and you didn't come with a full orchestra today. But if you were interested in playing,
they were difficult guys.
they just burst through the door.
Yeah.
Here they are. If you wanted to play a little bit for us,
sure.
At your leisure, doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can
talk
explain
about
a little bit, like, what
Yeah.
what this guitar is.
Please do.
So this is my new guitar from. Should I show it like there?
That's
Here.
the perfect angle right there.
Yeah, this guitar is a 14-string guitar, so it has 2 strings less than this class guitar right here, and it's an electric guitar with split coils, very basic. And as you can see, these guitars are bolt on. It's one neck, but 2 diapasons. So that helps a lot with the resonance, I guess, even though that's been like kind of demystified by the pickups and stuff. But it's a great guitar made by FM Guitars, my friends Felix Martin brand. And the tuning, in case you're wondering how it works, is just 2 set of 7 strings, and that one is 2 sets of 8 strings, and it's regular standard tuning. So there's no tricks. So I'll show you a little bit here, like what this does. So because these are already complex enough, the approach for this is if you have like 2 hands, one will do two notes, the other will do 2 notes, and then you alternate them. So in a way, it's like 2 hands help each other, right? Or you can do rhythms. It's pretty much like what is pointed to do, this guitar, but you can also do regular guitar stuff. Or stuff like this. it's like you can combine the different techniques from regular guitar and the 16 string guitar factor. Uh, Sometimes I add a switch so I can mute this upper set of strings, and I can play with just one neck of strings. I mean with just one diapason, and not having to struggle much with the vibration of the strings, especially when you do high gain channels.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that is a very unique and specialized form of playing the guitar, and,
Yeah.
and it comes with a lot of its own challenges, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating stuff. And by the way, just a quick apology to the viewers today. I seem to have forgotten to change the title of the presentation today, so it is, of course, not Lady Romeo. It is Javier Sepulveda.
Yeah. So here, like one more thing to mention is like sometimes you can assign to each hand like different rhythm patterns. You can do.
Wow.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, just stuff like
Sorry.
that. Was that all just improvised off the?
Yeah, I was just
having
improvising a
fun,
little
yeah.
bit for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you for
No,
listening.
no, that was amazing, and I think you've got a couple fans in the chat here that we've finally popped up.
Thank you for your support, guys.
Troy wants to know when you're going on a world tour.
Oh, well, we need to figure that out. But it will be awesome to make it a reality. So no
Amazing.
plans yet, but always thinking about it.
I will keep my eye out for that. Maybe I'll follow you guys around a little bit if I can.
That'll be awesome. Let's go.
So, with music like that, definitely, it almost reminds me of using a guitar like a piano.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. Very very new sorts of techniques come out of being able to play like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a curiosity of mine how you made the leap to doing conducting for some of the music that you wrote. Most of it probably started on the guitar, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to connect other musicians in Chile to kind of create this orchestra. So did you get conducting training when you were doing your education for music?
That's a great question, actually, because for this project, it's supposed to be a conductor ready to go. But the conductor at the time, and this is the absolute truth, got sick. So we had already the studio set up, ready to go. We had already the hours. We have the musicians, but the conductor was very sick and he couldn't make it that day. So imagine myself.
Wow.
Like preparing all there's some pictures out there, like with the score and everything. It was like, we took like a week to print everything, like just to print. And with all the musicians and having this huge problem. So I did like learn some, like conducting skills, but as an aficionado in a way, not as a proper orchestra director, which is like that's it's like an orchestra director is the top of conducting. I mean of knowing the arrangements
Right.
of
It's a
knowing
very particular skill set.
Oh, I
in
mean,
general.
people go to
Yeah.
university for that and study years and years and years for that. So, my approach to solve the problem was interesting because I panicked at the moment. I was like, "Wow, man, what we can do?" And then I was like, "This was like, wait a second, I wrote these arrangements, you know." So that gave me the confidence.
Because you knew the music.
I knew them. I wrote it. So.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot, push the recording session forward, because there's no way that this is gonna be canceled. And this is interesting because sometimes when you're pushed to the limit in these things that are related to your career or your personality, or you are struggling, and then you empower yourself to
Right.
to push it and to push forward and through. Is like when these like very rewarding moments happen. So always remember that if you're struggling sometimes, like that will give you the contrast to acknowledge yourself as as a better person with better skills, or better manage of your emotions, or whatever it is. So don't panic and always push forward, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Being able to find that strength in that moment, I think, is a
Yeah.
fundamentally enlightening thing.
Yeah,
sometimes.
and that become in one of the most terrifying, most rewarding moments in my life.
Cool.
Yeah, that was very,
Wow.
very interesting.
I'm glad that I asked that. I was curious,
Yes.
but I didn't realize
Yeah,
it was
thanks
such
for
a
asking.
unique story. But
Oh yes, yes.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Mhm.
So, you've played probably in over 100 venues, I would imagine, at this point.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite venues that you've ever played?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So, well, as a musician, you get, you get. I mean, in my range of things, like it's not that I'm on a world tour every. It's like I've never been on a world tour. But I've been on tour in Europe, in South America, here in the States, and we did like some very, very beautiful shows. Once I can remember was like, for example, PlayStation Theater in Times Square was really, really great show, amazing theater. The Pepsi Center, you know, Summit was super cool. Was like one of my friends came over and with a little, sign that says like fans of Javier. I thought that was so cool. It's like
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
fun. It's like, but it's my friend, kind of making a joke in a way. So yeah, for me,
What else are friends for?
yeah, right. They're the best. So, but for me, to be honest, it's like, and this is a thought I had. It's like, you can go for the big venues and having a blast, and being like amused by the lights and the people and all these things. But for me, my best actual, moments with music and playing were like in very different kind of places. Playing in jails, for example, for people that cannot go out, and going in and just like sharing music for them, or going to elderly homes and playing music for that kind of people, or for people that has problems with, I don't know, drug abuse, or people that is like having like a terminal disease, and being able to go and share your music for them, and just seeing the smile on their faces or the expression in their eyes.
Yeah.
It's like those for me are actually the most rewarding ones. But I do treasure those moments, like playing for a lot of people, and doing the guitarist thing, and having a great time. But
Melting some faces.
yeah, doing the face. Those are great, but for me, actually, like the ones I remember with more love are those that like push me closer to people. More intimate, loving kind of way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that can be probably some of the most rewarding stuff.
Oh, yeah,
is when
absolutely.
you can really feel that you made somebody's day
Yeah, absolutely.
that much better.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, for anybody who's tuned in right now, we do have a monitor up in the studio where we can read questions. If you guys have any special questions for Javier. We usually spend a good 5-10 minutes at the end here just addressing those whenever we can.
Okay.
And I think all of the audio issues have probably been resolved at this point. But yeah, if there's any other comments or concerns, feel free to voice them, or you can just say "yeehaw" or use a little cowboy hat emoji. That's usually the traditional greeting for Pink Sofa.
All right. We'll be here with your buddy. What's his name?
This is Scooter.
With Scooter.
Scooter.
Swedish.
The
Swedish dog in the
very
world.
special dog.
He's always looking at you.
He's looking at me. He's looking at my guests. Sometimes he'll howl along to people singing. He loves to do that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for everything. I'm very thankful for having the opportunity to speak a little bit about myself and music and how I see the world. And I don't do many interviews, so this is a special one for me. So thank you so much.
I feel very lucky to have you on the sofa today.
Yes.
And if you have any special shout outs or anything that you'd like to say hi to,
like a last message kind of thing.
Not necessarily. We've got a good 8 minutes left.
Well, I'd like to do a shout out to, well, of course, my friends, my family, people that I love, and my endorsements, and people from GHS Strings, FM Guitars, Carolyn Cable, Class Guitars, Fractal Audio, Mesa Sound Engineering, Friedman, and all these amazing people, Groove Gear, and all these people that make this music life be a little bit better, And
so these are all endorsements.
Some endorsements I have, or some like close relationship I have with people that work there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good not to have to buy string knives.
Yeah, I imagine having to buy 14 or 16 strings at a time.
Yeah, Carolyn Cable too is like, those guys are awesome. This will be like way more difficult without the support of all these brands. So.
Yeah, I mean you deserve it and you've earned it, man.
Thanks.
You definitely sound incredible on these things.
Thanks so much.
You need the support, as much support as you can get. This album that you're working on right now.
Yeah.
Does it have a name? Does it have a potential release?
Doesn't have a name yet. I mean, I have some ideas for the name, but I cannot reveal that yet. But I'll be happy to share with you when this is coming up.
Very cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And for anybody that was tuned in earlier, the story is quite an interesting one. I'm very excited to see it. I feel like it almost deserves like a anime adaptation or
Oh, that'll be amazing. Yeah.
Certainly, it evokes that kind of sentimental caricature sort of. When I think about the future, I've seen movies in like the future, and I've seen sometimes characters or portrayals that are done with artistic sort of intent, and I always feel a lot more moved by the ones that have a little bit of like artistic flair, I guess you could call it, whether it be like an anime or whatever else it is.
Yeah, well, that compliment that image brings to music. I mean, I'm definitely like interested in that. Actually, I thought about like bringing the VR section, like each one of those VR rooms, to actually make them create
like a VR experience.
Yeah, so the character can actually visit the same VR rooms that I mean, we as listeners can see the same VR room.
And you mentioned that your brother or a friend of yours is
my brother,
a 3D modeler.
Yes, he's a 3D designer too, so he has been helping me a lot, and we used to work doing campaigns for different brands, and that kind of opened up my mind too, like to the image side of things. That I always picture images in my brain, or like create stories, for the composition process, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I bring it to music, and for me it's like way more easier because I can be helped by that. Now what happens? You know what I mean?
Right.
And you just write it, and then you do it.
That's certainly people listen to music and they sometimes feel things in their mind or have images evoked by the way that certain, in particular, like Whispers of Elu for me, was something that like the beginning of it kind of gave me this like I'm sort of going into like this Lord of the Rings kind of level like
scenario.
Landscape with like myths
Yeah,
and like trees.
that's exactly
and, like,
what it was. It's
mysterious
like a journey, through the mountains, through a little bit of all the nature that is Chile, Oh, question?
It sounds like, yeah, we've got another question here. Have you ever done any movie scores? We kind of did cover this a little bit, but I think that there was a little bit of...
Well, I haven't done like proper movie score. It's a subject I would love to take in some point in my life. But what I did is I did the music score for The Life of Salvador Dali for theater, which is a Filipino Centi play that is patrocinated by Gala Foundation, which is the foundation of the wife of Salvador Dali. And I got hired to create the music for that actual play, and that was very interesting because I had to write. I had to grab the script and actually read everything and put my skills towards like complementing the story and imagining the tempos and what could go here and there. And for me, it was very rewarding to see the last slide of the last part of the play shuts down, music is down, music is off, just nailed it, boom, off, everybody just like clapping.
That's actually amazing. I have to go
find
some of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's out there, like, gotta be somewhere, because it's like, it was pretty like well known in Chile and in Spain, and Salvador Dali, so.
Salvador, of course.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back to Chile nowadays?
I try to go once a year, but after the COVID situation, I took it more like I had to stop a little bit, for safety reasons and to be respectful to the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't been back to Venezuela in a long time either.
So I really miss everybody there, but I'll follow them there at some point.
Yeah, I hope things in general improve in South America overall.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah,
Either way, we'll be fine as soon as we remain. We have our kindness on in our hearts. It's like I know that, so you guys don't lose that.
And it is truly beautiful to see you spreading that personally and having it be such a big part of your mission. I think that it's really nice. When you were talking about feeling like when you play it at jails and retirement homes and stuff like that, it was so special to you. I think that really speaks to how much you value that as a person.
Yeah, I love it.
As a musician.
Yeah, truly love it. There's so many ideas there. It's like actually I had this idea that I hope I can do it like soon. That was actually imagine like creating like a poster. I mean, it's not just a poster; it's like an entire activity, right?
Yeah.
But doing a tour that looks like a world tour, right? So it looks amazing, has a name, and you see all the dates. Many dates, and it's like wow, impressive. But then you read them very like carefully, and those are actually hospitals, elderly homes, rehab centers.
Yeah.
Like every single place where music can be meaningful.
Yeah,
and then
really impact people that are in like dark places.
It's like a way to pay back, but at the same time, we could create, like a website, and then you pass that to somebody else that might want to do it in another state, and then will be like a wake up call to all the bands that are like doing so well that are just like busy. It's like, no, I cannot go play there. It's like too much. It's like I'm too busy or whatever. It's like, hey, we musicians should always be available to like bring the connection to others and to be able to try to heal each other.
Yeah.
So it's a project that I've been thinking about by the side of by the side of things, but I think it will be good to to do such a thing because it can only help.
I agree. I'm not sure what you are gonna call it, but
yeah, we'll see. It's like I'm full of ideas. I need to like bring them to life. Yes.
Yes, Scooter.
We'll get you food. No worries, buddy.
Well, Javier, we're coming to the end of the program here. I want to
Okay.
thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much
It's been
for
an
having me.
absolute pleasure. You're a great human being.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much to the audience and anybody who's tuned in.
Thank you, everybody.
I want to apologize for any small technical issues that we had tonight, but it's just part of live shows.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
This has been the Pink Sofa Hour. I'm your host, Pedro. Please join us next week for Joby. It's going to be a great show. And yeah, let's go ahead and
Thank you.
say bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a good night.